Hi, and welcome to another exciting pirate news. Tonight with me, I have Jamie and Steve. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, it's a tad warm, but otherwise not so bad.
Yeah, good day to go to the beach, right? Except social distancing. We gotta remember that.
At least the Atlantic is cold.
Kinda, sorta. It's warmer than it used to be, at least as far as I remember. Um, but we actually have some pretty good topics for you this evening. We're gonna jump right into it with Steve. Steve, recently went on a ride.
I recently went on a ride. This was an event called the Ride for Black Lives. It's sort of, we've seen marches and such supporting Black Lives Matter. And this is, instead of a march, it's a bunch of people riding bicycles. So the first, it's the it's been the second such ride. The first one left from Franklin Park and toured around um, Dorchester and Roxbury. And it was people were really excited to see it. It was really well received, a lot of positive support, that sort of thing. Ride number two, which we did yesterday, was from Franklin Park up through Back Bay, and then around the West End, and then down to Boston Common. This was slightly less well received, which is interesting on a number of different levels. So Boston is a fairly segregated city, and so the Ride for Black Lives through predominantly black neighborhoods, yes, very well received. You go into white neighborhoods like Back Bay and around that area. Well, there's a little people get a little testier. They don't like cyclists. They're trying to drive. They don't want a bunch of cyclists, crowding up the road. So there were a couple of cases of drivers getting out and yelling at people. And I think in one case, a driver just sort of pushed their car forward a little bit at one of the cyclists. Fortunately, no one was hurt. But it's just an example of. I mean, it is an illustration of I think the longstanding segregation in Boston. Now, one of the things about the event that I sort of took away and as points to reflect on were the speeches given at the very beginning. So typically for a rally, there are a couple of talks, and then you go out and hit the road. So 2 points that I'm left to think about was first a comment that Black Lives Matter is not just a slogan; it's a movement, and if you really believe in it, you basically have to make it a way of life, and you have to. It's really a call to for a really a call for anti-racism. The second was sort of, I guess you could call it sort of a tough love comment, but it's great to see you guys out here today. We're gonna ride around, get some exercise, but if riding around is all you're gonna do, please don't come back. Which that's I think one of the things that I've gotten out of going to these demonstrations is um, just to hear perspectives that I wouldn't necessarily hear in the town where I live in, where the black population is only about 2%. So you don't get a sense of when you're in the majority, it's easy not to get a sense of problems, um, when you're not directly exposed to them. So at any rate, I'm going to reflect on those things and try to try to live my life the right way, and I'm looking forward to the next ride.
So, Steve, what were the suggestions speakers had for actions people can do?
So actions people can do, well, first, if you know of a black owned business, uh, patronize them, be their customer, buy stuff from them, buy services from them. If you know of black run nonprofits, donate to them. If you work at a company and can convince them to, and the company's mostly white, and you can convince them to like diversify some of their hiring, that's a positive thing. Um, it's one of the ways I think you could look at it is, we have a system where we have numerous cases of systemic systemic inequality, and systemic discrimination. So anything that can push against one of those barriers in a concrete way is, I mean, things that should think about doing.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you very much for that, Steve. And so, definitely with everything going on with the pandemic, more than ever, we really need to really take care of each other. Honestly, as far as like whatever race or creed you're from, it doesn't matter. We're all in this together. Uh, Coming up soon too. There's definitely some new laws coming through for Massachusetts, where if you travel outside of the safe zone, which is pretty much everywhere not in New England, you got what, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Only those places are you allowed to go to, and otherwise you have to get tested and quarantined and the whole nine. And Massachusetts just expects you to do that. Those are the new rules, and so it almost feels like, hey, if you go anywhere, if you get any different opinions, we're going to have to test you. So, what's going on with the expiring or unemployment and all that too? So, Jamie?
Right. So at the federal level, there until I believe the end of this month, anyone who's on unemployment can get an additional $600 on top of whatever they would have gotten, which, for so many millions of people is a complete lifeline. That, there'd be a lot more people out on the street were it not for those additional supports. And the Democrats put out a bill 2 months ago to extend that, and the Republicans are hemming and hawing. They're concerned, well, their claim is that it provides an incentive for people not to go back to work. And when so many jobs, 20% of the workforce has in essence been laid off, people aren't necessarily willing to go out to restaurants. I know even in, many places in Massachusetts, restaurants are opening up for table service, but the number of people who are willing to go out is down from what it was. And so even if we're the Republicans to cut back on those benefits, all that's going to do is harm people because there just aren't the jobs there. I mean, I'm increasingly hearing about small businesses that are either going out of business because they just can't afford it anymore, or being snapped up by hedge funds. And there just aren't the jobs that we had before. And so people need to be able to keep body and soul together while we ramp up, hopefully, other means of employment and getting things back. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. And certainly with the pandemic still going ballistic, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But in Massachusetts news, there were some bills to extend the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures past I believe, July, August. And our governor has unilaterally extended those to October 17th. I found out about that from our friends over at the Mass Alliance Against Predatory Lending. But there's still, even then, we know this pandemic is going to go on. And we're going to come back. October 17th is not
a good time, to be perfectly frank. I mean, that's right as everything's getting colder and everything's slowing down. So that's going to be putting a lot of people in pinch, right, especially for the holidays.
Right.
So that being... Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to say, that being said, that we'll still keep up to date and we'll still keep on informing you folks out there Jamie?
No, I was just going to say also from Maple, and I'll link into the other bill that we were supporting, but S 2831 and H 4878, which is the Housing Stability Act, that would extend the moratorium further. And so this is a long-term crisis that we're in, and we need to figure out, whether it's universal basic income or it just extended, unemployment insurance. We have to figure out some way that people can continue to live without being evicted, without going hungry, without having the heat turned off and the electricity turned off.
Hear, hear. And with that, that's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And if you want to make your voice heard and be active in this, we are definitely looking for more opinions and more points of view in both our weekly meetings and in the greater dialogue that is us. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep on fighting the good fight.
And check us out at masspirates.org.